Hey, this is ADV Tress, and we're headed out to the Mojave for a Trail Guardian cleanup hosted by Overland Bound and the National Park Service. So I packed up Alice with all her gear for a couple nights camping. This is really not like a overlanding camping trip. This was really focused on working with the Park Service in conjunction with Overland Bound to do some cleanup activities within the park borders. So we met on the Mojave Road, camped the night, and then headed over to Fort Paiute. And then from Fort Paiute or Paiute, we headed to our base camp. And then from base camp the following day, we did some work at a ranch that was being transitioned to the Park Service through the conservatory. So that meant a lot of cleanup and garbage or trash removal, non-historic debris removal. And then we returned back to base camp and headed out the following day. And in this particular Trail Guardian event, the Trail Guardians, were tasked with 4 cleanup activities, and then you could pick which activity you wanted to participate in. I picked the clean up the property, which was interesting and fun. So we had all camped together off of the Mojave Road, staged up, and then started heading to Paiute or Paiute Fort. And along the way, there's petroglyphs packed into the rock walls. So, as you're driving around, if you're into that kind of thing, keep your eyes open because the petroglyphs are really stunning in this area. And then depending on the type of pecking and whether they're geometric or not geometric, kind of identifies how old approximately the petroglyphs are, which I thought was really interesting. And heading out into the Mojave, this was my first time going to the Mojave. I was kind of on a time constraint due to work and stuff, so I couldn't, do the full Mojave Road with the rest of the crew. Some of the crew had gone and done that. But driving through the desert is a lot of fun, and it's pretty doable. I think if you just have regular 4x4 rig, even one of the Outbacks, at least for most of the road that we did, heading to Paiute or Paiute Fort is doable. There were a couple sections where we kind of hit some deep ruts in the little runoffs or little gulches or ravines, but other than that, nothing really major. I would say be careful, have good tires with sidewall protection, because there was someone on our trip that actually ended up getting a puncture, a pretty deep puncture. I don't know if it was probably from a piece of wood. The sagebrush can act as punji sticks to your tires, so be sure at the very least you're carrying a spare. And then the road up to Paiute is pretty rocky. So again, lower your tire pressure and just take it slow heading up there. But other than that, it's well worth the kind of trek. If you're doing the Mojave Road, it's well worth the trek off of the main Mojave to get up to Fort Paiute. And Fort Paiute, if you've seen my other videos, I'm totally into immigrant history and, early people's history. And this is a really special place. There's petroglyphs all over the place. It was inhabited well before, immigrants came. And then when the immigrants came, they built the fort to protect the water source as the wagon trains were coming through. So we spent our time there, rebuilt a rock wall that had been demolished because, ATVers wanted to go down and drive in the canyon and stuff. And it's really a culturally sensitive zone. So it felt pretty good to, give something back there. And then from there, we drove out to our base camp where we were going to spend the night. And it's just awesome. I've never driven through a Joshua Tree forest. So that was really cool. And then this is some video of the night, and there was lightning storms in the horizon. Of course, I'm not, a film editor, so I wasn't really able to capture them, but the sunset was beautiful. The next day, we headed over to a ranch that was being transitioned from the conservatory to the Park Service. So basically all the garbage and junk and debris needs to be picked up before the Park Service will accept the transfer from the conservatory. So that's what the team spent pretty much the day doing, was moving debris. After we were done there, we headed out. We stopped by the Rock House. So this is a neat little resource or location to stop at in the park. Went inside. I wouldn't recommend it without a mask due to a lot of mouse debris. We also stopped, and I don't know if this was the Blue Boy mine or not, but there's mines scattered throughout the park. So if you're into mining history, early ranching history, there's tons of stuff to see out there. So we got to kind of explore around that before we headed back to camp. And I would, Mojave, I went out for a work trip. It really wasn't an overlanding trip, but it's definitely on the list of things to go back out and explore, because there's just so much history out there. So if you head out, have a great time, and I hope to see you down the trail.